Hey guys, so today we're going to go over factoring quadratic, and more specifically quadratic when the coefficient is 1, not when it's obviously not 1. So when it's 1, the factoring is a lot easier. I will go over in another video how to factor when it's not 1. So let's get going. So for now, let's take a look at, again, it's a quadratic. So you should know that quadratic is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. And in this case, a is 1. Okay, so the value here is 1. So an example of that would be something like x squared plus x minus 20. So for example, that would be an example. So there are many ways to do this. However, there's one way that I really like the best. It's the simplest way, it's the easiest way to get to the answer quickly. I call it the X method. It might be called something else in school, or they might not even teach you this in school. So the X method is basically, so let me clear the board. And so that we have let's just go back to that example. X squared plus x minus 20. Right. So for the X method is fairly simple. So first of all, I always write out a is equal to 1. B in this case is equal to 1. And the C is a minus 20. And what I typically do is draw an X like so. Okay. And on the top part of this X, I will put the value C, right? Or on the top of this should be A times C. And in this case, A is 1. So it's just 1 times negative 20. So really it ends up being negative 20. And then down here I would put B, which is 1. So just to show that again so that it makes sense, you take the value A times C and put it here. And then you put B here, right? So that's a numerical example there. So once you do that, obviously for when the value A is 1, you can just automatically go straight to negative 20 here, and then 1 here, right? So the first thing I do when I factor quadratic and I do this X method is find 2 factors, okay, for this top value. So in this case, right away, I can think of several factors, one being 1 and negative 20, right? The other is 4 and negative 5, okay? So my first initial thing I want to do is always find the factors first, okay? Once I think of a factor, what I need to do is make sure that the factors add or subtract to get to this value right here, okay? So again, once you find the factor, you want to make sure that the factor add or subtract to get to the value at the bottom. So in this case, I know that if I add 4 and negative 5, I would get a negative 1. So that doesn't quite work. But what if I switch it around and make one other factor negative 4 and the other factor being 5? So you see now it works, because if I do negative 4 here and 5 here, negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. So when we go up that direction, yeah, that works. You multiply to get to 20. But when you add them, you get 1, right? That's when you know you have found your factors. Now, to get to the factor, all you have to do now is just say, oh, is x minus 4 times x plus 5. And there you go. It's as simple as that. That's how you would factor x squared plus x minus 20. Okay? Now let's do another example. So let's try x squared, and again this is 1x squared, plus 8x minus, let's try 20. Okay, so in this case I would write out, it's just a habit, because once you do a more complex operation of quadratic, it is a good habit to write this out like this so you know clearly what it is. So in this case, c, remember, is negative 20 again. Again, I will write my x. And again, because it is just 1x squared, I would not need to, if I take 1 times minus 20, I would then get minus 20 again here. And then I get an 8 here. So I just think the factors are 20. So I know that 1 and 20 is a factor of 20. But no matter what I do, I add or subtract, I will never get to 8, right? So 1 and 20 would not work. Or 1 minus 1 and 20, no matter if it's 1 times minus 20, I know I can get rid of those, right? The next thing I can do is 4 times negative 5, or negative 5 times 4. So really, I try to do mental math when it comes to the factors, right? Because I know right away, no matter what you do, add or subtract, you will never get to 8 with the number 4 and 5. But I realize that there's one more pair, which is negative 10 times 2, or 2 times negative 10, right? So now if I say negative 10 times 2, that'll work, but if I add those two together, I get negative 8. So that doesn't work out quite well. But if I do 2 and, negative 2 and positive 10 here, right? So in that case, if I add them up, I do get a positive 8. So here I know that negative 2 and 10 here would work, right? Why? Because 10 times negative 2 will give me negative 20 when I multiply, and when I go down, I add them. 10 and negative 2 will give me 8, right? So in this case, I can tell right away that those are the correct factors. So then all I have to do is just say x, parenthesis here, x, parenthesis here. This is a positive 10, so I do plus 10. The other factor is a minus 2, so all I have to do is just do minus 2, right? So these are the factors for this quadratic equation. Okay, so it's as simple as that. If you have any question or comments, feel free to write below. And if you think this is helpful, be sure to look at my other video for factoring when this guy right here is not a 1. That's a little bit tougher case, but this X method still works. It's just that we need to twitch 1 or 2 things around. All right, keep practicing, and it will come to you if you're having difficulty with this. See ya. Hey guys, if you find that was helpful, let other people know, and please subscribe. Keep practicing, and I'm sure you get it. All right, have a good night.